There is my parents right there, my mom and dad. Um, this is about when I lost my mom and the few days that I had with her. I was the last one to talk to her, and it was on the phone. She was in the hospital, and she was actually getting better. They had to put a PICC line in her arm because they were giving her blood or taking her blood, and they had used up so many veins that they finally had to put a PICC line in. um, she started getting blood clots all in her stomach because she was bleeding internally. She had a blood clot in her arm. So they were giving her Coumadin or heparin, I can't remember which one. And she started bleeding internally in her stomach. So she started getting big, huge blood clots. And at the time, we didn't know. She just started having pain. And anyway, I talked to her on the phone. The last time I talked to her, she told me that she was scared and that she was in so much pain that she had never been in that much pain. And I said, well, she was an hour and a half away in the hospital. I said, well, I'll be there pretty soon, because, I said, I'll be there pretty soon. I'll be there with you. And she said, no, you stay with your dad. You take care of your dad. You know your dad needs you. I said, but Mom, and she said, I'm just scared I'll be all right. And I told her I loved her and I would call her in a few minutes, and she said, okay. The hospital called and said that they had to put her on a BiPAP machine, which helps her breathe. And I asked if I could talk to her, and they said no. I said, will you please put the phone up to her ear? And they said, we can do that, but she can't talk much because she can't breathe. At this time, I'm thinking I need to go see her. I told her I loved her, and I could hear her through the mask say she loved me back. About an hour, I had to go pick up my dad at dialysis. As soon as I picked up Dad, I came back home. I was going to go up to the hospital, and they called and told me that they had put her on a respirator because her lungs were no longer working. So I went up and to see my mom, and when I walked in, they didn't really prepare me for what I was about to see. She was bleeding so bad internally that it was coming out of her mouth, out of her nose, and her eyes. They had to tape her eyes shut because so much blood was coming out everywhere. And she had a blood disorder called myelofibrosis. And I just lost it when I went in there and I seen my mom like that. My mom was one of the best women. She was the best woman that I ever know. The thing is people talk about their moms as if they're, the greatest, which they should. But I'm telling you, my mom was the closest thing to a saint that there ever was. She would have gave her life for us. She was the best ever. And I walked in and I seen her bleeding out of everywhere. And I lost it. And I started screaming that child molesters should look like that. My mom should not have to look like that or go through that. I can remember one of the nurses grabbing me and taking me out and telling me that my mom could still hear. And I needed to try to keep myself as calm as possible. We talked to her doctors, and they told us that there was nothing else that they can do. Now, see, before this happened, a year before this happened, she was on a respirator also. And we almost lost her then. But we actually had another year with my mom, and that was the best year that my mom and I had ever had. I mean, we did everything together. I would drive her to her doctor's appointments, and we would hold hands in the middle of the van and start singing da 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 da, you know. I mean, when I started becoming sick, she took care of me. The last 5 years of her life, I took care of her. And I would have done anything for my mom. Anything. They told us that there was nothing that they could do, and that we needed to let her go. So we decided we need to take the machine off. They turned the machine off, kept the cord or the tube in her mouth, because she was bleeding so bad. They were afraid that if they took it out, it would rupture something. She would start bleeding even more. And she had a big, huge blood clot right here. She lived for 2 days like that. And I told him, she's not going to go until it's gone, until it's out. You need to take the tube out. I told her that she was the best mom in the world, and that she did everything right. She didn't do anything wrong, and that I would be okay without her. Even sometimes I feel like I'm not. Even to this day, I feel like I'm not okay without her. But she's gone. I held her hand as she took her last breath, and I wouldn't have wanted to be anywhere else, because she was the best mom in the world. I encourage every one of you that still have your parents to make sure you hug them and love them as much as you possibly can while they're here, because when they're gone, they're gone. You can't do anything about it. All you can do is grieve and wish. That's all. Thanks.